And I think I caught myself from really progressing because I was comparing myself on how I think I should be running. And I tried that. I tried running like Jesse. I was like letting my hands loose a little bit, but then I was focusing on my fingers flapping around everywhere. Welcome to another episode of Mindset Mastery. Is everything good on your side? Welcome to another episode of Mindset Mastery. I'm your host, Araujo, and today's topic is momentum develops new perspectives. And I think this whole conversation today will remind you of many things that are going on in your life, within your relationships, within your business, within your health. And I need to see the comments out there, please. I've been on this road to 100, right? Trying to run 100 miles in 8 weeks, and we are on the final stretch. We are down to 24 miles left. And it feels like it's just right around the corner, right? We're going to run another 12 miles this week. That's 3 times this week for 4 miles each time. And then do the same thing for the following week. And that'll give us a 24 required to finish the 100-mile commitment that we made. And it was a group of individuals, and some have come and gone. And this invitation is still open to you all. Maybe you begin your 100-mile trek this week, this Tuesday. But as I start seeing the numbers change for me, I'm sorry, I'm having difficulty here. As I start seeing the numbers change, right, where I had 78 miles left, and then I had 64 miles left, and then it just seemed so overwhelming because it felt like I was going up against Goliath, right? This big monster, and the monster was what was left on the table. And it seems discouraging oftentimes, especially as in this business, we start looking at everything that's required in order to get one deal. Right, all the marketing and all the months of work and preparing and to put yourself out there to finally get that one deal. Or let's say you've been producing at a high level, but it's like there is no end to it, and it seems like this fruitless task of constantly just getting up and going through what seems like the motions. Like, is it ever going to get better? Am I ever going to push this new threshold? And as I started seeing the momentum shift, right, because that's what I felt like. I felt like now I was in control. Right, I was no longer in this thought process that I have a lot more left than what I've already completed. I'm on the opposite side of that. There's only 24 miles left of this task. I am going to beat this beast of 100 miles. And I got to tell you, the first few times that I went out there, I was excited. I felt thrilled about the challenge. But then there goes through this monotonous period where it seems like things just get more difficult. I didn't feel as graceful as I did my first few times out there. I didn't feel as energetic and as vibrant and as like, the thought of like, yes, it is within my grasp. In fact, I felt defeated many times after the runs, where I would have to ice my legs and take Tylenol and Advil and aspirin and a combination of all three at some point, which is not recommended. But I felt the aches and the pains of growth, right? And I started seeing my numbers kind of dwindle as well. I'm like, okay, I'm not getting any faster. In fact, I'm regressing from what I set as a standard because the first few times I was mentally there. And if you think about getting into this business or growing your business, when you're mentally there, things seem to be to kind of run in your favor, right? But at the moment you feel that little inkling of regression or defeat, it really feels like you're stuck and wallowing in this mud and not being able to move fast enough. And that's exactly what happened. As the weeks progressed, I started feeling like, how am I going to get through this? My legs feel heavier. They're aching more. Maybe it's my age. Why did I even do this? I mean, we come up with these thoughts because we're in the midst of pain, not realizing there's things on the background, things that we don't have any idea about that are working in your favor. Right? That momentum is all working in your favor, but to get there, you got to feel the pain points, the shin splints, right? The pain points of losing deals, the pain points of not getting anyone to respond to your great marketing idea, to your video only getting limited views, to your text messages not getting responded to. These are the pain points, and they're also called the breaking points. Pain points are oftentimes breaking points for many people, and they're not supposed to be interpreted as breaking points. It's a buildup. It's a threshold that we're building. And I got to tell you something. There was many breaking points during the time I've been running. And, you know, I was just telling one of the guys, like, I literally saw myself just getting hurt on purpose in order to avoid going through this pain. So think about this. Going through the process, I would see a puddle of water, and I'm like, if I like kind of slip a little bit, twist my ankle, I don't have to do this anymore. These are the thought processes that go in your head when you're in that pain point. You want to quit. I wanted a reason to quit. But I didn't want to call it quits. I wanted an outside force to force me to quit. Like many agents in our industry right now. They've been wanting to quit for years. And now they have an excuse for their results. The economy has been shut down. We've been mandated to stay home. That's something they've been looking for because they couldn't handle the pain point, because now they interpret it as their breaking point. And understand that whatever level you're at, whether you're just starting out or trying to take your business from 40 deals to 80 deals, there's going to be many times you're going to feel like breaking. And even though that thought goes through your mind, you say, well, let me go ahead and push a little more and a little more. And one thing about growth is that consistency builds new thresholds for you, because consistency builds capacity. Consistency builds capacity, which develops new perspective. And that new perspective creates growth. So as I'm out there and I'm like, well, what would happen if I keep going? This pain is not as terrible as I think it is. How about I focus on the count, my stride count, as opposed to focusing on how much this sucks? How about we focus on just posting and communicating and following up with our clients as opposed to the results we don't have just yet? And that's a hard process to really grasp and make it our own. How can we focus on something positive? How can we focus on new perspectives if the pain is just too much? But that's what consistency does. You see, during this time, I didn't realize that through all that pain, my body was also doing a magnificent thing. It was regenerating new cells. It was fixing itself, right? Repairing itself, making me stronger. My mind was also going through that same process. It was developing new thresholds to handle pain, to control my breathing. It was adapting, and that's the beautiful thing about our brain and our bodies, that it adapts very well. Once we focus on once we stop focusing on the negativity and start seeing what is coming out of this. This past Sunday, I ran my fastest 4 miles to date. My fastest 4 miles to date. Mile number 76. My fastest 4 miles to date. And I did it under 28 minutes. And I'm going to tell you exactly how I accomplished that. One, I didn't think just because I slowed down right in the middle of this challenge that I put upon myself that I was regressing, that I was getting worse. I had to understand that I was getting better, but it was going to take time until I'm running full force again. And then I started seeing new perspectives. And I asked one of the guys, I said, Jesse, I need you to help me get under 29. He says, I got this. Now, if you haven't ran with Jesse, he's like a damn gazelle. like frolicking through the forest. This guy looks like he's prancing on his toes. He runs so gracefully. I'm not making fun of him. This dude, it seems like he's elevating off the ground. Like he barely touches his toes and he's just real graceful and he's real loose. And I caught myself many times trying to copy his style, trying to get loose, right? Trying to take the steps the way he does it. And if you see him, he looks like a real runner. Compared to me, I feel like I'm this big ogre just kind of plowing through shit. So many times during this process, I had to realize that somebody else's game in this painful spot, right, is not necessarily my game. Everyone has different styles in this business. But if they stick to what makes them unique, they will grow exponentially. And I think I caught myself from really progressing because I was comparing myself on how I think I should be running. And I tried that. I tried running like Jesse. I was like letting my hands loose a little bit, but then I was focusing on my fingers flapping around everywhere. And then I was constantly just like trying to loosen up, and it felt like I was going slower and slower. I couldn't be there. That wasn't my cup of tea. It wasn't the way I was created. So I started embracing my own stride. And although my stride is not graceful, it is exactly who I am. And as opposed to just letting my hands loose, I notice I run better when I clinch them. And they say that you shouldn't do that because it wastes energy when you clinch your hands. But guess what? For me, it works. So I started clinching my hands. And I started taking longer strides. And I started letting that momentum go. I no longer started thinking about how I think my running pattern should be, or my posture, or anything else, and then I just let it be. Overthinking our strategy is what keeps us back many times. The way one top producer creates his business is nothing like the next person. And when we get caught up in that game of I should change my habits or my structure or what works for me to match that, is when we start feeling like we're regressing. So over the last week, I've embraced my running style. And I've ran my fastest times since mile 1. And now on mile 76. Because I'm embracing the pains and I'm embracing what works for me. And I realized, hey, clenching my hands, leaning forward, and just letting my legs go allows me to move faster. But that only came possible on the back of my own consistency. And one thing I want to remind you is that when you see this consistency and when you embrace what works for you, in business, it could be different things. It could be your videos. It could be your posts. It could be your follow-up. It could be open houses. Some of you are really good at online lead generating, asking for referrals, whatever it is, just do more of that. And there's always room for improvement. I'm not saying that I'm using the same tactics that I did on mile 1. What I'm saying is I embrace what made me strong to begin with. And then I took some pointers from Jesse. But I no longer wanted to copy his style because it is good for him. But with new perspectives comes new thresholds. And you surpass these thresholds through your consistency. It's an amazing thing. Because through that threshold, I said, what would happen? I wonder if I can beat 29 miles. And I did. And that consistency and that pain tolerance I started asking myself even better questions. And started challenging myself because my perspective is now greater. I wonder if I can get this under 28 minutes. And that's exactly what I did on Sunday. Because I was no longer thinking about the process of thinking, I don't know how to run. I don't know how to breathe. I just had to do. And for many small business owners, they get stuck in that rut of, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it. What should I do next? I think all of you sitting there now and listening to this knows exactly what you need to do to generate your next escrow. But getting stuck of, well, I don't know. Maybe this person knows better. Maybe if I do this other thing, maybe that'll work for me. Instead, you'll find yourself just kind of stuck and wallowing in this mud that is deep high. No longer am I running correctly? No longer am I taking the right strides? I'm allowing my body to determine that. And the results? Well, I'm running my best time that I ever have. 28 minutes, 4 miles. I'll take that all day long. But that was only possible by overcoming what I thought was my breaking point. It was just a pain point. Yeah, the pain was intense. I feel like one of my ankles is twisted, is swollen right now. But when I get out there, I don't think about it. And when I do, I seem to slow down. I seem to regress. So I want you to start thinking about that. That if you're thinking of how you want to get to the next level or how you're going to get to the next level, you got to understand that you may be in a pain point right now. But it's not meant for you to break. Learn the lessons that it's providing you. Understand that there's a magical thing happening in the backgrounds, which is the capacity you're building. Because in order to get to the next level, you have to be a better person, a better business person. You got to be able to take the duress and stress that comes along with it. Otherwise, it was just a fluke. And I know it's not a fluke for me. And now I have new perspectives. If I can handle this pain, if I can continue to push myself, what other time can I get on my 4-mile run? I'm going to continue to push myself. And I think that's what creates momentum in general, is a new perspective. A new perspective of what else can I do? What else can I create? And if I can do this, what else can I do? I saw perspectives change this weekend. As I'm talking to new agents, and we had a conversation, and actually Rio, one of our agents here, Rio Video, and we were talking, and if you ever talk to Ruben, he's so much a matter-of-fact type of individual, right? It's a A to B. He understands that the quickest point from point A to point B is a straight line. Like cutting out the BS, cutting out the excuses, and just getting from point A to point B. And he's having a conversation with Rio. And he looks at him and he says, you should be a 100 deal closer a year. That shatters perspectives, right? It did for him. I saw it. Because now it's like, what would it take for me to be a 100 deal producer a year? And I'll tell you what it takes. It takes very much what he's been doing this entire time. But as opposed to focusing on hoping to sustain what he's created, because he's demonstrated that already, is focusing on what it's going to take to get to that other point. But there's going to be pain points. There's going to be breaking points. But when a new perspective comes, it's like, oh, maybe it is possible for me. And I know it will be. Because it's no longer of just trying to reproduce what we created last year, but seeing how far we can actually take this. And new perspective gets up and going. So if you're feeling sluggish right now, if you're feeling low energy, not thrilled about the business, maybe you forgot what you truly wanted. Maybe you forgot to push yourself. And it's not laziness. It really isn't. It's the fact that we allowed it to become an option. We've allowed not doing things to become an option. And momentum, once we get it, it's really hard to get it. But it's real easy to burn it down. And that's the tough part. And that is the major difference between top producers and average producers. Average producers at any given time can produce exactly what a top producer can do. The best in the business. The problem is they can't repeat that cycle over and over again because they can't get through their own thoughts. They've demonstrated the skill set. So once you've done it once and demonstrated once, you can do it over and over again if you commit to staying consistent. And that's all it takes. You can be consistent for a short period of time and show great results. But can you sustain that over years? That's the tough part. So this 100 miles, yeah, it's a big deal, but it's short term. I'm only impressed with those people that can continue that for long periods of time, for years on end. Anyone can lose the 40 pounds, but can they remain off? And can you continue to progress on that? That is the real victory. Not the short-term gain, but the long-term sustainability. So I'm sure Rio will look at his patterns, and yes, he is one of the most consistent, but I know he's leaving a few things on the table, and he knows that as well. And once he figures that out, he'll be a 100-deal closer a year because he's demonstrated that. Same thing goes with the conversation I had with Rudy this week. He's thrilled about being able to produce in the first 4 months. Let me say that again. He was thrilled about being able to produce what he did in the first 4 months this year of what he did all last year. And he was our rookie of the year. 5.3 to 5.6 million in closings. He's done that. So I proposed the question, are you going to hit 15 million? He's demonstrated that he can do that. And the only thing that can stop them are the thoughts and the pain points. Misinterpreting them for breaking points. He's on that trajectory. On what's considered to be a hit to our economy, he's there. Now it's up to him if he believes that perspective to be his truth. And his eyes lit up the way Rio's eyes lit up about the 100 deals. But that's what fuels ambition, is being able to see something greater for yourself. It's no longer about just trying to sustain what we did last year or trying just to meet what we did last year. If you are in this process of consistent reps and consistency, there is no question you can push yourself to that next level. Because you're building capacity. So those pain points, maybe we're misinterpreting that as well. Maybe we're misinterpreting the pain points of today of what they were 2 years ago. When your capacity is much greater, but yet we're allowing the story to bring us down when in fact you're much greater than those pain points. Now it just takes conviction and determination that goal you set forth is yours, is within your grasp. And sometimes we don't realize how far we've come, how much we've grown. And things that used to debilitate us or walk through a park. But we're misinterpreting it. Oh, it's supposed to debilitate us still to this day. How could it be? Through all that you've experienced in the last year, in the last 5 years, how could those same things debilitate you today? They shouldn't be able to, and they don't. It's the thought process around that debilitates us. We've all grown. If you've been here 3 months, 3 years, or 10 years, you are not the same person. And this is the time we reflect. Are we allowing the things that used to throw us off 3 years ago to throw us off today? We have to look at that and question that. Because, well, your capacity says otherwise. The story hasn't changed. So I want you to challenge those beliefs. I want you to challenge yourself and say, what would it look like to be that $10 million producer, that $15 million producer, closing 100 transactions? And guess what? It may not happen over time, but it doesn't mean to quit on it. Just like in 2014, I confidently proclaimed we would sell 300 million and have 100 agents. It didn't happen for 3 years. And there was many times where I thought my goal was foolish. Many times where I was like, is this ever going to happen? It was just a pain point, not a quitting point. And I stuck to my resolve. And I made corrections. And I grew myself. And I pushed myself. Now that's just child's play. I have this big goal that we will be a $500 million sales company. Not with 1,000 agents, but with 150 agents. Imagine that. Closing $500 million, $500 million, with 150 agents. We have to have the highest sales per agent average in the entire state. We're going to get there because of people that see themselves there with new perspectives, like Rio, who will close 100 transactions, like Rudy, who will close 15 million, like you, that will push yourself to the next level. And these are just stories because I've been talking to them. But what is your story? How about you get it this year? How about we forget about all the noise that's out there? People misinterpreting this coronavirus as a quitting point. Breaking point. It broke them. We see it as it's a little painful. This sucks. My shin is swollen. My ankles, I can't even see the little bone there. Can't see none of that. It's just a pain point. It's all about interpretation. But that interpretation is forged by your consistency. So let's get back on our game. And let's start seeing greater things for ourselves. There's a world of opportunity out there for us because of how others, your competition, has interpreted it this time. They misinterpreted this. It's not their breaking point. It's a pain point. So I will change my breathing. I will change my stride. You will change your tactics, maybe tweak them a little bit. But you will keep going. And I'm going to end this last 24 miles with a vengeance. I'm going hard because I know I can take it. I've always have. So guys, what are you hearing in this conversation? Where are you taking your business? I want to thank everyone for joining me for this edition of Mindset Mastery. I want to say hi to Claudia. Good morning. Celia, good morning. Michelle, good morning. Michelle, I can only imagine where you're taking yours. I mean, this is unbelievable. You demonstrated great success in your first couple of years in real estate, and you're building that capacity. And now it's time to be like top 5, right? And you know you have it within you. You know it. Kim, good morning to you. New agent, Liz, David Moreno, one of our, Mr. Bread and Butter, always shows up in our top 5. Gabe Pacheco, good morning. Olivia Godinez, you have a new perspective for yourself as well. You've had to overcome these breaking points, right? What seemed like breaking points, and understand they were just pain points, and you're building a phenomenal business. Cindy, good morning. Marissa, good morning to you. Omar, good morning. Nick, Audra, good morning. Madeline, why did we even do this? Is a constant thought the moment this alarm goes off at 5:30. She's one of the, Madeline's one of those that has joined the 100-mile run club. Yeah, that is a constant thought process. Like, why? What's the point of this? And, it's one of those moments where I've learned that whenever there's a fear, when things are changing, right? And I've noticed several changes within our economy over the last 15 years that I've been in this business. I've noticed that if I make the pain and the pain points harder on myself, I can get through anything. And that's what kind of triggered this whole 100 miles. I'm like, if this is going to be as messed up as they say it's going to be, I'm going to make sure that I bring on more pain to myself so that this thing right here doesn't break me. It won't break me. And it's been a conditioning process, and I feel thrilled about the future. And so should you. And if you've got fallen off your game a little bit, just begin again. Begin again. And you know exactly what you need to do to get your life in order, your business in order, your marriage in order. You know exactly what to do, and it's just getting back to those simple things that we've demonstrated. Roger, top of the morning to you. Bobby, morning everyone. Caroline, Rudy, through the reps, you continue to fine-tune your process. It gets better and better as you go. This is with anything. You continue to create more opportunities for yourself. And what you've created, Rudy, it's exactly that. Your ability and allowing that perspective to say, if I can do this, what else can I do? And maybe that's the thought process of today, right? Of what else we can create. Rio, having a PR on a solo run, that's badass, bro. Nothing like a dose of Ruben and AZ shattering your stories and giving you new perspective. Why not you? Why not now? Why not you? Why not now? Beautifully said. Roger, 8 million this year. It's there. And Roger, I wouldn't be surprised if you hit closer to 10. You're on that trajectory. And understand, we think that growth is linear oftentimes, that 1 + 1 = 2, but with growth, 1 + 1 can create something completely different, which doesn't even make sense. But what we don't take into consideration, like logically, 1 + 1 does equal 2. It's there. But when you take all the work for many years, many months and many years behind that, the growth that we see oftentimes doesn't make sense. But what we don't consider is all those reps that we've put in, and that momentum, which makes equations that don't make even sense. So 8 million, Roger, I think that's already in your grasp. It's already there. I think the 10, maybe, right? I'm just planting a seed. But you're on that trajectory as well, my friend. And I think we all are, if we allow ourselves, excuse me, to see that. Now, we just go back and say, okay, what is it going to take? Thank you again for joining me for this episode of Mindset Mastery. And I will talk to you soon. Have a great day, everyone. Bye now.